A warm welcome to Anna Shepherd from Meerkat Creative. Tell us a little story about like sort of the mission, the journey, how even the name came about, on how you started, how many years ago. But yeah, if you can just give our audience a little bit of introduction on yourself, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me, first of all. Meerkat was started in 2020. I know, starting a business. Amidst a global pandemic, probably not the smartest move in hindsight, but the timing was right and a few things lined up. So there I was, starting my own thing in 2020. We originally started as a video production agency. So I have always been very passionate about video as a means of communication. I still believe it's one of the most powerful ways to talk to your clients, to deliver your message to your customers. And from then on, it just grew. I guess I'm the kind of person I don't say no. And so I originally had clients who came to me for video, which was our specialty. And then they started asking questions like, can you do photography? Can you do design? Can you do other bits and pieces? And while I don't pretend to be a master of all of those things, I've been in the industry long enough to know people that are. And so I've just never said no. I've just said I can, if I got asked something that I knew I couldn't do, even at the early stages when it was really just me running around with cameras doing things, I would just go, yeah, we can do it. And then I would find the suitable person to do that part of the job. And literally that's how we grew. And within probably about 12 months from me starting by myself, running around with cameras, chasing cars and caravans and doing all that adventure style content, we grew into a full scale media production agency that does everything end to end that involves, media broadcasting, media, photography, all of your advertising media, as well as actually liaison with the media as well. And of course, video has always stayed at the forefront of what we do. That's still our core. And let's face it, video is still one of the most important things that clients need in terms of their digital presence, in terms of, appearing legitimate and appearing interesting online. So it's always going to be our core product, our core service, but yeah, we do it all now.
So how do you feel before you were standing behind the camera? Now you're standing on the other side. How does that feel?
Look, I'm getting used to it. At the start, when I've had to start doing these things, it was a little bit uncomfortable. I think I used to say there was a reason why I was behind the camera, because I didn't want to get in front of it. But I think as you grow as a business owner, as you develop your brand, you kind of start to realize that you need to do these things.
Yep.
You need people to recognize who you are. You need people to connect to you. And it's the same thing that I tell my clients. I wouldn't be true to what I tell my clients if I was telling them to get on camera to, do their company story and talk about their background. And, I talk about authenticity a lot in everything that we do. And then for me to turn around and say, oh, no, I'm not doing any of this for my business. That would be wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
So I guess, for me, as much as it was very uncomfortable at the start, I'm sort of better at it now. I think I've come to terms to the fact that my face has to be splashed all over the internet with the Meerkat brand, but it's just a part of business. It's a part of what you do. It's a part of digital identity these days. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, that's how people connect to you now.
Yeah. And so our viewers just think, here we are, created our own studios, and my background's been in building and development all my life. And here we are now with a business exit secret formula, sitting in front of cameras. So we're not a studio, but we're creating ourselves a studio. So it's possible for anyone to sit in front of the camera, share their purpose, their mission, their branding. All of that part is something that we should all encourage our listeners and our viewers to really get behind that. You don't have to have the best setup, but just start. And really, it all just starts with your phone, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I was just about to say that. A lot of people that I speak to that have never done anything like this before, I tell them to just start with their phone, because this, a selfie camera like that and talking to your selfie camera is actually probably one of the more intimate ways you can communicate with your customers. And what we see as a growing trend right now online, with a lot of stuff going AI and with a lot of advertising and everything flooding social media, if you can be very intimate and very authentic with your customers actually value it more. So sometimes you will have those short phone videos where the director of the company is literally just talking to their phone, and they sometimes outperform some of the bigger scale productions because it's so real, it's so raw, and it's so authentic. I don't know if I just shot myself in the foot saying that, because I've built a business around creating professional video, but I think there's room for all of those things. It's not like, okay, now you're holding a phone and this is the only thing that you do. Because the other thing you have to think about is you do have to have diversity in the content that you're putting out. So if you're only putting out your selfie videos, which is great, everybody should do that. Everybody should do that at least, once or twice a week, because it's easy. It takes like 30 seconds. But if you're only doing that, you might get a thing that we call audience fatigue.
Yeah.
And that's literally when audience get tired of the same thing over and over again. And that's why, we suggest that, yes, you have one of those a week. You have a different kind of graphical animation video a week if you can.
Yep.
You do a post with some photos. You give people variety, and that keeps them engaged. Yep. Whereas if you keep on doing this, video is always going to be your most engaging post of the lot. But if you do a variety of posts every single week, most of them are going to perform quite well. The ones that don't, just don't do that again, I suppose.
Well, it's a bit like the days of, people would come home and then they'd read the paper.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
And how many papers get sold today? I don't know the numbers by any means, but not a lot. Once upon a time, someone used to drop papers off at your front door, but you don't see that anymore, like the milk and all that.
That's right.
So, but people say, look, I'm going to go home. I just want to relax, jump onto Netflix or Amazon or whatever flavor that they have. So they watch something, don't they?
Yeah, that's
so
right.
It's kind of the same type of situation where people, we could probably say their attention span, but a little bit lazy, just want to sit back. So it's very important about how they position themselves, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Like in their brand, not only their personal brand, but their business brand, their mission, their purpose, their direction they're going. Because if we can't put that out to the world, then no one understands where we're going. And then they don't want to join that journey, do they? Yeah. So they might watch a movie, for example, because they're looking at, a romantic love scene at the very last minute type of situation. So they watch that. But it's the same sort of journey as people go through. So what have you found? Like you we're talking about where we have those snaps in front of the camera, as in your iPhone or whatever phone you've got. And then the other ones where you got your studio. Explain a little bit to our audience what they could do with like more of a studio presentation. Like, for example, they want to sell their business. They want to present it. So it's like a house. They need to polish it up. What could you help our audience in that, where they could sort of present to the audience as in the buyer? And even before that, they have to think that they're presenting to someone that mightn't even be considering buying, but they go, I like what your business is. What sort of recommendations would you sort of give, or suggestions for our audience?
Yeah, cool. Really, really good question. And it's something that people ask me a lot, actually. I really like how you drew that line between selling a business and real estate, because that's actually a reference I like to use quite a lot. And what I say is that when you're trying to sell a house, any real estate agent will tell you to put a lick of paint on the walls to sort of spruce it up a little bit so that it looks ready for sale. Well, it's the same thing when you're trying to sell a business, yeah? There's a few things that you can do to make it look visually more appealing. And in a business sense, I think a lot of it has to be now in a digital sense. So obviously making sure that your website looks good, that there's updated information on your website, that, a lot of businesses go towards having blogs on their website now. So make sure that your blog is not from, 2015, and that's the latest one. So just making sure that you have consistent content going out to your customers, and you have some engagement with your customers, and people can see that you have engagement with your customers. Same thing goes for socials. Like, you've got to make sure that, for at least, I would like to say 6 months, but a minimum of 3 months, you have consistent posting going out, you've got some updates, you've got, customers commenting on what you're posting about, you've got some fresh photos, some fresh videos of your business, and it's real stuff. It's your business. It's not, something that you bought, like an image that's been used by 2,000 other people, the corporate stock images. So make sure that it's your business, it's your real, authentic content that's been pushed out on your socials, on your website consistently for the last, like I said, I would like to say at least 6 months, but a minimum of 3 months where we can actually see some engagement, because then it becomes part of the documentation you can pass on to the buyer when they're looking at your business, and you can show growth in your social media, you can show engagement in your social media, and that sort of becomes a part of your pitch deck, or not a pitch deck, a sales document that brings value to your business. And so, similar like you would paint your walls inside your house to make sure they look nice and fresh, I say, do a little bit of a brand refresh digitally on your business. Make sure, your website's updated, you've got fresh content, fresh stuff about your business, and it looks new and exciting.
Well, another part, you're just saying like you could use it like a pitch deck, right?
Yeah.
So you think we have a lot of buyers, and so they look through a whole lot of businesses. So working on the pitch deck, I think that's a great idea for our audience. If we did a pitch deck that on your business, then those buyers can go yes or no straight away. So if you're shining out from the crowd, you could look really polished that instantly they can watch what you do, and they can watch it in half an hour, 20 minutes, that type of stuff?
Well, look, not even. I don't think any buyer is going to look at your business for half an hour when they're first looking at it. Think about it, again, real estate example, you're just looking to buy a house, and you're scrolling through stuff, and you're not really wasting half an hour per house.
No.
So it's that first glance that makes it look glossy, and then you might do some digging into that particular property or into that particular business, but it's really getting people straight away and making sure that they actually want to click more information. They want to find out more details. But what I'm talking about with a pitch deck is the same thing, when you're doing the real estate research, you go in and you request more information. I think, in Victoria, we call it Section 32. In Queensland, it's called something different. I don't remember, but it's basically, it's that pack that you get that gives you more information, and you got to make sure that that's also ready to go for your business. It's it's there, and when you send it to the potential buyer, it looks impressive.
So sort of moving forward with that, the first thing that most of our buyers are looking at, they're just looking at the numbers. They go, right, what's this, what's that? And unfortunately 80% of businesses don't sell. Why is that? There's only 10% that are ready to sell today.
Well, they don't look appealing. That's why they don't sell.
Exactly. And so there's a lot of emphasis that is working on the concept of the business owner's not ready. But if someone doesn't know what's inside the business, they've got no idea. And a lot of that is that I think even the business owner really doesn't understand in a funny way themselves. So how could we really open up possibilities? Because really you're just selling a concept. Everything is of the past, what you've generated. And yes, we could talk about AI and all of those sorts of things. And we are going to have to adapt to that and utilize those tools. But the same thing, they still want that personal side. But obviously I would believe that a lot of those business owners probably don't want to stand in front of the camera, while they could use AI, but obviously it's going to be a bit more personal, but it could be a combination of the both. Do you think?
I think so. Look, I think it has to be a combination of the both. I learned a really cool term yesterday. I went to a business event, and they call it the AI sandwich. Have you heard that, David?
No.
So
tell the audience about this
AI sandwich is human, AI, human.
Yes.
So, and basically, and that's a very good working model for how to use AI in your business. And I loved it. Instantly, I knew exactly what it was talking about, because this is something I've been telling my clients for the last couple of years, that we've been using AI. So what you do is, originally you have a human that generates a prompt for AI to do something. then you have AI doing that task, but you can't stop there. You can't. As humans, we're very good at recognizing content that's not authentic. So you have to have that last bit of human that then gets the AI ideas and humanizes it and has that input that's the last input that turns it back into human. So in that kind of model, you're using AI as a tool
Yes.
to speed up processes, to give you ideas, to generate a whole bunch of content in a lot faster time frame that you would as a human. But then you have to have that last human element if you want to look authentic, if you want to look well, attractive to other humans, because humans buy from humans. We don't buy from robots and logos and flashy things on the internet. We like to connect with humans and we buy from real people. So this is where I really, really like that term, and I hope your audience do as well. But yeah, think of it as an AI sandwich.
Well, I love the concept of the AI sandwich. I think because so many people feel like they're getting left behind.
Mm.
And if they're still part of the sandwich, or they've got where they can have other people to help them on that journey,
Yeah.
they're still going to be part of it. They don't have to be every layer, do they?
No, no. And I think a lot of people, there's a lot of fear out there at the moment. And so there's two camps, yeah? There's the camp who's like, yay, AI can do everything. And no, it can't. And then the second camp that is just terrified because they don't know how to act with AI and they feel like they're left behind. The truth is, there's nothing scary about AI. You have to treat it as a tool. You have to treat it as something that helps you though. And so, yes, if you're not using AI, unfortunately, you probably are going to be left behind. So just start using it, you know?
Yep.
If you're not comfortable using it for your business yet, just give it, I don't know, a list of things you have in your fridge and ask it to write a recipe for you to cook with. It's very good at it. I've cooked some incredible things just doing that. But just try and integrate it into your life somehow where it helps you. Doesn't necessarily replace you. You still have to cook the dish yourself. It won't cook for you, but it gives you ideas and start integrating it into your life. And I guess then that whole concept becomes less scary and you can then adapt it to help you in more and more aspects of your life, including your business, your banking, your planning, your strategy, anything you want. But I think at the end of the day, you have to use it as a tool to help you do more things faster, but not to replace you.
So back on that, so with our business owners that are contemplating selling, if you're using it as a tool, right, but really you need a system, right? So we can have a whole lot of tools in our toolbox coming from a building perspective.
Yep.
But if we don't have a system of how to use them, then it all falls down, doesn't it?
That's
so if we
right.
go back to the sandwich model, the sandwich actually turns into starting to build, we could call it a system.
Yeah, an
a process
SOP.
and system where you got one layer that's, you know, where you're using AI, one layer where, for example, you're using outsourcing different people, because today it's quite complicated. Most of us don't do the BAS. We hand that over to an accountant or bookkeeper or something like that. There's other parts of marketing, so we outsource that to different people. So with our audience that in mind, if we sort of have like a little bit of a brief of like even yourself, where I hear you went on a bit of a trip walking for a long distance. You could probably tell us a little bit about that. And then how you handed over something thinking, how am I going to keep my business operating while I'm away? If you could just share to the audience a little bit about that and the combination of the people in your team and a little bit of AI and then all the mix in that would be really exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's right. Thank you for bringing that up, actually, David. It's, I did the Camino Trail earlier this year. And for me, it was a little bit of a personal thing I wanted to do. I went with my mum. So it was a little bit of an opportunity for us to spend some time together. And I guess I thought mistakenly that, you know, with business being digital and all, I could just go on this trip and run my business from my iPad while I was on this trip walking the Camino Trail in Portugal. I just thought that I'd just wake up at 5 a.m. and, you know, work for a couple of hours, you know, shoot some emails out to people. And yeah, like that, I thought that was an operational model, which is kind of funny now I think back to it, because if you're walking 20 kilometers a day plus, the last thing you want to do is wake
Yeah.
up at 5 a.m. and then do that repeatedly over a number of days in a row. And so on about, I think, day 3 of being in Portugal, I realized that that was not going to work. But then, my two choices were, well, do I abandon the trip mission and go back to my business full time, or do I do something about it? So on day 3 of the Camino Trail, I actually ended up hiring a general manager for my business, which has been one of the best decisions I've made ever in the business. Because not only did it free me up to actually go enjoy my holiday with my mum at the time, now that I'm back, it's actually freed me up to do other things that I should have been doing a long time ago, and a lot more of a long time ago, which is doing things like this.
Yeah.
Doing business development, talking to people like you, going on podcasts, networking, and not actually being, knee deep in all the operational aspects of the business, which I know I can do really, really well, which is why it was so hard for me to let go of that aspect. But at the end of the day, and it's the thing I say to clients, you can do anything, but you can't do everything.
No. And that's one of the biggest challenges we have, because we'll say to someone, could you go off to Europe for 4 weeks? That's our first question. And I go, no, we couldn't even go away for a week. And it's like, okay, so in that concept, everything is totally dependent on you. So do you have any time to grow your business? Do you have a business to actually sell?
You have a job.
You have a job. That's all you have is a job, because you walk out the door, unless you sell yourself, you walk out the door and it's all over, isn't it? So that's, isn't that interesting? But now, do you, like you're saying, there's just different parts of what you're discovering now. So when you went on the trip, you probably discovered a little bit more about, say, your purpose and your mission of things. You've looked at things from a slightly different perspective even. Would that be?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, a lot of people do Camino trails for different reasons, right? Some people seek some divine enlightenment. Some people seek clarity. Some people seek, I don't know, just getting away and being with your thoughts for a certain period of time. I think the thing with the Camino that people talk about, and what it means is that Camino provides what you need at that moment in time. I didn't go on that trip on the Camino Trail to seek some divine enlightenment or anything revolutionary to come to my life. I actually went on that trip to clear my head.
Right. Okay.
And that's exactly what happened.
Yep.
It's exactly what happened. Because I feel like, running a business, going into, the 5th year of the business,
Yep.
we're scaling, we're growing, there's so much going on. We're developing new packages, new products. We're adapting to the world of technology. We have to start recording that camera again. It just stopped though. There you go. So, you have to adapt to the world of technology, what's going on with AI. As a media company, we kind of also have to be at the forefront of what's going on, because then we have to teach our clients what's going on and give them advice on what they should be doing. So there was just so much noise, so much going on in my head that I think at some point I couldn't really focus on anything for longer than a couple of minutes. It would just be all over the shop, which is not a great thing for a business owner. But think about, if we're honest, think about how many business owners get to that point and they never get out of that vicious cycle. So I think for me, all I wanted to do is step back, get a little bit of headspace, clarity. I still thought I could go away and run my business. Now I realize that was so silly. But look, there was a need, there was a solution. So I'm glad that it went the way it did. Yeah, for me, it was really, when you're walking 8 hours a day and you're going up and down, and it's very beautiful. It's very rewarding. It's not just, you're just walking in hardship. It's a beautiful part of the world. But you're in your head with your own thoughts. You're not really looking at your phone. You're not really answering emails, thank goodness. Day 3, see you later. It actually gives you a lot of clarity. It gives you that headspace to be able to see things differently. It's a weird feeling. You're right. And even now, I've been back for a couple of months now, but even now things pop up and I'll go, I wouldn't have thought of this before, but I do now. So it's actually kind of stepping back and seeing your own growth, your own progression, and your own, I guess, achievement.
Yeah, so like part of the journey,
Yeah,
you're looking at it from a bird's eye view.
that's it.
Like I love analogies and the like. So before you were like the bird in the nest. All you're doing is looking around the nest, isn't
Yeah,
it? And then you pop up. Now you're actually like the bird in the sky and you're looking down and all of different possibilities that are
that's
out
it.
there. Like I say, with a world of different things that are coming on, we obviously talk about AI, we just talk about a lot of change and different things like that. But that bird's eye perspective, do you think a lot of business owners are in the situation are still in the bird's nest looking down of what's going around them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so. I can tell you why. As business owners, we're all control freaks.
Yep.
Most people start a business because they're a control freak.
Yep.
And then they start something and they're very good at it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have their business for very long. So let's presume they've had their business for a while, means they're good at what they do. But the more they do of that thing that they're very good at, the more they want to control it. And so it becomes a vicious circle, yeah? Because you're wanting to control it because you're good at it, but then you're sitting in amongst all the stuff that's going on and not withdrawing yourself from that situation and actually seeing the bigger picture. So it is a vicious circle. But I think, yeah, there's been a lot of talks about this sort of stuff in the business
Big time.
community.
Absolutely.
I am a big believer that you do have to step out of it. And, this holiday that I went to this year, it wasn't the first holiday I took since running the business. Yep. The thing is, so I go to Europe at least once a year. That's just a personal goal of mine. I like going to Europe. I enjoy my time there. But this is the first time on day 3, I switched off and I did absolutely nothing for the business. Nothing. I didn't even look at my emails. You know what? Nothing bad happened.
But do you think it was over the 5 years of building up? Because you can't say to someone, okay, they've just started in the first 6 months to 12 months, and then they're handing that over. That's not realistic, is it?
No, it's not realistic. But I think the earlier you start letting go,
the easier it will be.
The easier it will be. The truth is, the first few times I went away, I did hand over parts of the business to people I employed, and I did try and set up systems where I wouldn't have to work as much, at least, where, me working a couple of hours a day would be sufficient. I did try and set those systems up, but they didn't work the first time. What happens is you go away and then you realize it's not working. You have to come back and fix it. But unless you start doing that process, you never even know what you need to fix. So, the first time I went on a holiday was probably, a year 2.5.
Halfway through.
Yeah, it wasn't, I wanted to say year 2, but I was like, no, it wasn't year 2. Yeah. It was sort of going on to 3 years. And I thought I had everything ready. We had all the projects lined up and, some things that, we had in the schedule, everything was allocated. All the photographers were booked. Everything was going to be fine. And I was literally going away for like 10 days. It wasn't a big holiday. It was going away for 10 days.
A little tester.
A little, a bit of a, just dip your toes in the water, see if you can actually be on the beach for a bit and not,
But you didn't really relax for that 10 days, did you?
I couldn't, because on day 3 stuff started happening. While I set every project up from an operational perspective, I had everything planned. I didn't plan for the change of plans. Change of plans was that I think we had one videographer fall sick, so we couldn't, we had to look for a replacement. Then a client came back with more feedback on an edit, on like a big project edit that we were doing, which we didn't anticipate. So we needed someone to make the decision to invest more editing hours into things. So I set everything up before going away, thinking that everything was just going to go to plan.
Yes.
But I didn't put someone in place to take charge for the times when things didn't go to plan. So on day 3 of me being overseas, things actually just started falling apart. But this is where you kind of have to take ownership. You can't just go, oh, well, damn, how dare that person get sick? Okay. You have to go, okay, actually, I stuffed up. I stuffed up by thinking that everything was just going to go to plan. It was a good plan. Yeah. But things happened. I was the one who was responsible for not actually foreseeing something going wrong, for not briefing someone or having a person there that was knowledgeable enough about our work, knowledgeable enough about the projects we had going on to be able to make those decisions and adjust those plans. Because at that point in my business, that was me. I was doing everything from an operational perspective. I was making all the decisions. I couldn't let go. I guess, you live, you learn. I didn't really have a relaxing holiday that time. I still got to enjoy some of it. It was.
So when you came back from that holiday after, we'll say, some challenges and disasters and all the rest of it, like a lot of business owners, they say exactly the same. Did you do anything different at that point, or did you continue on?
No, I started handing over some of my operational tasks.
So it was the pain of that you had to go through.
Yeah,
so
that's the thing.
So just think of that. The pain that you have to go through first. Don't think you're the only one out there that's going through the pain. Like what Anna's going through, like what we've all gone through in different stages. You're not the only one. Just join the thing. But today you can really understand the pain, and then as we go through this interview, you can see that the magic that's coming out. Do you feel that shift where it was like, I had some pain, I had no one in place, but now we're going to go through what did you do next?
Well, and like I said, I didn't hire an operational GM straight away.
No.
But I started actually teaching a lot of my staff to know what to do in those situations so that I didn't have to be there to make those quick decisions. Like things like if we have to swap a videographer out, okay, let's create a standard operational procedure. Let's have a list of our 20 videographers that we use as contractors. Let's order them in order of preference. Let's have that list available to all of our staff members. And when things go wrong, they just go, oh, okay, well, John's sick. So who's the next down the list? Let's see if Scott's available. That's it. But I didn't have that before.
Yeah.
I think the important thing is, it doesn't really matter which role you're doing in your business. You're never going to know what you haven't accounted for until you do go away and things start to fall apart. And when things start to fall apart, and I think, my business mentor was saying that to me, and I was like, no, but I've set everything right. I'm a control freak, there's a there's a contingency for the contingency, but no, things start falling apart because human factor. But until you go away and experience that, and it's normal when that happens, you just have to go, oh, treat it as something exciting. It's like, that's the problem I haven't thought of. Cool, how do we fix that? And you go through that process a few times. And then you can go away, hike the Camino, and not look at your emails for 3 weeks.
So the lesson here, everyone, is that you have to have what? And then put things in place to solve those problems. So it's just a journey. We have to push that barrier through a little bit, that we have a problem, then we put a solution. None of us start with a blueprint and off we go.
That solution can't be, oh no, I'm never going away again.
Well said. Because that's not a typical type scenario of what people do.
That's not a workable solution, because you know what happens next if you do that? You wake up on your deathbed and you've missed your kids growing up, your grandkids growing up, and your maybe great-grandkids growing up, and then you're like, shit, I've got to sell this business, but all I've got is a job.
Well, unfortunately, we've got clients that are like 76 years old. They're struggling.
Yeah.
They're really struggling to the point where they've just run out of energy. In some cases, it's down to just selling their property. There's nothing left in the tank. And unfortunately, today, there's so many like that. A great point where it's like the solution is not to go on holiday. Love that. So just remember that. Because most people go, no, it's all too hard. It's all too hard.
It's easier for me to just do everything. It is for a little while, but then you miss out on all the other stuff.
Yep.
So remember when you first started your business, you wanted that freedom?
Yeah. Well, tell us about that. What do you think of that freedom now? You've actually, since you're back in the last 2 months, isn't it? How do you find your freedom now to when you first went on the trip? Then obviously in day 3, we know what happened. You handed it over. Now you've come back. Where do you see yourself in the freedom? We'll say 1 out of 10. 10 being the optimum freedom and 1 being tied to the business.
I'd say I sit at about an 8, which is a very happy number for me at this point in my life.
Yeah.
But I also see freedom slightly differently from a lot of people, yeah. I actually align freedom with taking responsibility.
Yep.
And because to me, if I take responsibility for everything that happens in my life, and if it goes wrong, well, I'm the one responsible. If it goes well, I'm the one responsible. Then there's no one else to blame. And when there's no one else to blame, that's the ultimate freedom, because you can affect everything that happens in your life when you take responsibility.
Absolutely. When you look at responsibility, we can't control what's going on, for example, like in America or whatever.
Yeah.
We have to take responsibility for our world, don't we? We should be open to the rest of the world, but when we start looking at that, we have to take that responsibility. So that's in your business and looking after your customers. Then it broadens out from there. We have to take that. We can't just say, oh, my general manager was no good. Such and such was no good. Someone else, and you just blame. But the other part is we have to support them too.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't we? So as we grow, what's our best thing that we can do? We can pass that, as in personal growth on.
Absolutely. I think, when I went away originally and things stuffed up, I didn't go, oh my God, how stupid are they? Can't they just get another videographer? Well, I didn't tell them to. I didn't tell them that they could. I didn't give them the list of people. So it was ultimately my fault for not actually seeing ahead and going, oh, this might happen. Well, then you accept that responsibility, you fix that problem and you move on. But you can't get angry at your staff because they didn't do something you didn't tell them to do. So I think it's really it's a learning curve for everybody. Look, I've never owned a business until this one, and I'm still working shit out. I don't know everything. I really don't. But the things that have worked for me, I'm quite proud of. If I make mistakes, I just kind of go, okay, well, this was a stupid idea, wasn't it? How do we not do this again?
Yeah. But it's interesting. Like I first started business in 1987, a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
But all of us, if we're not learning, then we're basically just drying up and dying, aren't we?
That's it.
And we have to pivot and do what we do. Yeah. But just to wrap this up, this podcast, the business exit secret formula, what would be like just that last little snippet? I really like the part where that sort of a control freak, and how just probably in about 2 steps, because we don't want it complicated, of how, even though you've told the story, but what would be the first step would be really good for someone that's typically always just control. Then they stopped, they went on holiday, they fell apart, then they tried it again and they fell apart, and they said, right, this is it, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm 60 years old and I still can't let go. What would you say to that 60-year-old?
I think, well, hopefully I get to talk to this 60-year-old when they're not 60, but they're like 45, 50.
Okay, yes.
Hopefully. Also 60, what I would say, it has to be a mental shift, and maybe a mental shift around being excited to find problems. So not necessarily dreading something bad happening, but actually being excited around creating your business and creating your systems within your business, and then being excited to find problems, because once you find them, you know what's wrong, you can fix it. And really channeling that control freak energy towards that, rather than going, oh, no, everything went wrong, I'm just going to go back to doing everything myself because I'm the best at it. Of course you are, but then you're also the only one who is the best at it. Then you become the business and you can never leave, and it's a trap. But if you focus that control freak energy into actually finding problems in your business, letting go, not letting go completely where like the whole thing just falls apart and you do nothing about it. No control freak would let that happen anyway. Letting go to the point where you can see where those, points are, where those pain points are, and fixing them before they become a larger problem. Then stepping back again, seeing how it goes, something fucks up again. Yep. Excuse my French. You're like, oh, cool. You do that process until you get to the point where you step back and you're like, it's working. Then you can do your own business, start another business, because no business owner is going to just sit back, do nothing. That's just not possible. No,
that's the problem as well. Like when you go and start looking at the world of business owners, when they sort of lose their purpose in that world of what are they going to do next. So that's why obviously the business exit and beyond is such an important part, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is. But I think as business owners, we're very impatient and we also get bored easily. So I think actually having that ability of building a business and then perfecting it to the point of where it's no longer your job, but it's an asset that you can choose to sell, you can choose to keep it and let it generate you more money. And then as a person who has that entrepreneurial spirit to go and build things, you can go on and build other things. You can go build another one of your businesses somewhere else. That's where the freedom comes in, I think. It's really about not about being free as in not having to go to work or not having to do anything, but actually taking responsibility for your actions, taking responsibility for what you've created. As a result, having choices in terms of what your next actions look like.
Yeah, so the next chapter. Yeah, as much as you've implemented, if people put as much effort into the exit, and even in that process of exit, thinking a long time ahead, then they've already got, whether it's to do with their travel, whether it's to do with the likes of another business, like you suggested, a whole group of businesses, masterminds, all of that type of thing. It's like you were saying, when I used the example of 60-year-old, you're saying, I'd like to talk to the 45-year-old. Starting to think like that already.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I don't mean like 45-year-old and then they're selling their business in 2 years' time.
No.
I want to talk to the 45-year-old that then becomes the 60-year-old that sells the business.
Yep.
But in those 15 years, they've adapted, changed, and perfected that business to the point where they actually do have that choice when they're 60. They can keep it and just have it as a side asset that generates them income. They can sell it, make money on the exit, or they can choose to be on the board of directors and still run the business, but that's a choice.
So thanks, Anna, for your time. And I hope the audience really enjoyed it because there was a lot of magic in there. So just remember, business exit secret formula and all of those little nuggets that we had today. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Anna, thank you so much for sharing your story, your expertise, and some really valuable insights with our listeners today. For those who want to learn more about Anna at Meerkat Creative, we'll include links in the show notes. If you're a business owner looking to exit strong, proud, and ready, don't forget to download our free Business Exit and Beyond Journey ebook, or join our next workshop that takes place the first Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. There'll be a Zoom link below. Or if you're in Queensland, in Brisbane, please join us in person at the Casbah at Ovalo Hotel in Fortitude Valley, Brisbane. Thanks for tuning into the Business Exit Formula podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. Join us next time for more practical strategies on building a business ready for anything. Until next time, exit strong, exit proud, and exit ready. See you soon.